Hey everybody. It is now 11:46 p.m. on April the 24th in the year of our Savior 2017. We have had an interesting afternoon, to say the least. As many of you probably are aware of at this point, there have been some changes to the banned and restricted announcement. So, as always, I am Dan of the Lab Maniacs, joined by Cameron of the Lab Maniacs. And we're going to talk about these changes. We're going to talk about how they may impact the format, and we're going to talk about some of our thoughts and impressions of these particular changes. So, Cameron.
Dan.
Tell me your thoughts on this Leovold ban.
So this Leovold ban really could have been solved with banned as a commander. So Leovold really is oppressive in the command zone for casual metas. I mean, for casual players, it combos with every wheel effect out there and Teferi's Puzzle Box. And the fact that it's a 2-card combo makes it a little bit on the power level that some people aren't necessarily used to dealing with. For the competitive scene, he's an amazing hate bear. He's one of the best ones out there. And if you're running Sultai colors, you run Leovold just because he's that good. There's a reason he is the control card for Legacy right now. He's in almost every deck.
He's certainly the control card following some other changes today.
Yes, following Top being banned, he is now going to be the mediating factor. Yes. Miracles is no more. Again, yes, that is the case. Why is he banned? I think he's banned just because the rules committee doesn't think that requiring instant speed interaction is a reasonable deck constraint for casual play. He dies to every piece of removal out there, sans Terror and Doomblade, Murder, Terminate, Lightning Bolt, Swords to Plowshares. I mean, he's all over the map as everything that can kill him, and if they cast a wheel effect, you kill him, and it's not nearly as bad. At the same time, this isn't the same level of oppressiveness as a turn 1 Braids was. Turn 1 Braids was very reasonable for them to do on a regular basis. It was like a 60 to 70% chance that you could get a turn 1 Braids out, and that was painful to play in when Braids was legal as a commander. This isn't the same thing.
That was oppressive. You just don't have permanence.
Never.
Pretty much just outright.
Yeah, I mean, the deck was designed to puke things on the board to sack and keep Braids out, and you just never had a land. And then they play their deck however they want to, and you do nothing for the rest of the game. From a competitive standpoint, he was a great hate bear. He was a mediating factor for a lot of things. I mean, he slowed down combo. Yes, he was in combo decks as hate against other combo decks. I mean, there's a reason that... one of the reasons Ad Naz is so good right now is it does also get around Leovold. I mean, he was out there in almost all the decks. I mean, save Zur, which can't run him.
Yeah, if you were in Bug, you're running Leovold. He's great.
Yeah. Banned in its entirety, I think, is unnecessary. It's the same case as Arayo and Braids, in my opinion. Braids in the 99 isn't nearly as oppressive. She's a strong creature, but a turn 3, a turn 4 Braids is much more manageable than a turn 1 Braids. The same with an Arayo. I mean, if you've got enough out there to actually be able to cast 2 things in a turn, Arayo is nowhere near as oppressive as he is when he's out there super early and you can't even cast a Felwar Stone on turn 2 if you're dealing with a super fast Arayo.
Yeah. The only possible reason I could see a competitive reason to ban Leovold would be just that he is so ubiquitous in bug decks. But I think there's a difference between being an extremely powerful and ubiquitous card choice and being overly centralizing, which is a criterion that the Rules Committee has expressed interest in banning for initially. like Prophet of Krufix. While I may not agree with a Prophet of Krufix ban, it is certainly something that was centralizing in casual metas. Leovold doesn't really have that effect.
So Prophet of Krufix and Primeval Titan both had the same thing, where once one of those hit the battlefield, the entire game revolved around the player that had them in play. With Primetime, it was whoever could get the most Primetime triggers. So it was kill it, reanimate it, kill it, reanimate it, kill it, reanimate it, clone it, do whatever you need to do. And whoever got the most triggers would win the game. And sometimes you'd have a person who would get 6 or 7 triggers to somebody who hasn't ramped a single bit, and you'd have 5 lands to 17 lands. With
or like 7 lands to 1 land.
Yes, that too. For Prophet of Krufix, it was that person had an extra turn on everybody else's turn. They would build the deck in such a way that they just had a ton of creatures, and they were able to play an extra turn every turn. And so whoever had a Prophet was just massively ahead on top of everybody else. And it made the game revolve around having those creatures or being able to remove them as fast as possible. And most of the time, if they untapped with that creature, they won the game. They didn't win it immediately, and that was the real problem with them, is that they won 6 turns down the road, and it was a painful journey to get that 6 turns down the road because it took them that long to actually use that resource advantage to get the win. So if they had won immediately, it would have been a lot more obvious and a lot more doable to say either this is a combo card and we need to change it. I mean, it's sort of like, to me, it's the difference between Kiki Jiki Mirror Breaker and a Seedborn Muse. You get a ton of resources and you can get massively ahead in the resource game, or you can win the game immediately. If you win the game immediately, okay, hey, let's move on to the next game. But if you're massively ahead on the resource game, you are having a really great time doing everything you want to do while everybody else is 5, 10, 11 turns behind you and not having the same amount of access to everything. And that's really what Primetime and Prophet did, is they just made the games go longer than they needed to. If you just cast a Kiki Jiki instead of casting a Prophet, the game's over. But if you cast a Prophet and you win 5 turns down the road, it just took you 5 extra turns to win. Why didn't you cast Kiki Jiki?
That makes a whole lot of sense. So, in your opinion, Leovold, does he deserve his spot on the ban list?
As a creature, no. As a commander, yeah. And it draws more questions into the whole banned as a commander versus not banned as a commander. I mean, the dual commander community has that distinction. They're able to stick with it. It works great. It actually is very reasonable. It's healthy for the meta. It changes a lot, and it's actually pretty balanced where it's at. I mean, they've done a bunch of things to change it around to try to adjust it from being a massively combo heavy. I mean, recently we saw Vial Smasher get banned because in a 1v1 format, the random portion of Vial Smasher just goes out the window, and it is broken in a 4-color deck when you can pitch things that cost 9 CMC and people are at 20 life. It gets out of hand really quickly. They've embraced the band as a commander. They saw the potential of it, how it can mediate powerful cards that should be available in the 99 and can be fun to play with and reasonable to play with in the 99, but not in the commander slot where it's always available to you.
Yeah, there's a whole lot in that discussion, I think. But I don't know if it's anything we necessarily want to go too deep into tonight. So right. The second part of this ban and restricted announcement was the unbanning of Protean Hulk. So I'm going to preface this next portion with the disclaimer that neither Cameron nor I were playing Legacy back when Protean Hulk was legal. That being said, based on the things we've talked about and the things the Rules Committee has said about creatures, what are your thoughts on Protean Hulk being unbanned?
It's okay for casual games. I mean, if you're not building your deck around abusing Protean Hulk, it acts the exact same as Tooth and Nail does. Tooth and Nail gets you bigger creatures. Protean Hulk, it's in the same cost to value range as Tooth and Nail. And Tooth and Nail's still around. I mean, To get its full value, it's a 9-cost sorcery. You get 2 creatures from your deck, you put them into play. Protean Hulk, it's a 6-mana creature. When it leaves the battlefield, you go get 6 CMC worth of dudes. In a casual format, that's great. Hey, let me go get 6 mana dorks to kind of refuel after that board wipe, or whatever you're wanting to do in your casual deck. For competitive, oh god, this is bad. Okay, so it was 8 hours ago that this was announced. We have 5 different distinct turn 3 combo kill decks based around Protean Hulk. So these are ones that have counter spells backing them up that can actually, we're playing Flash Hulk. We've got blue and green.
Mine doesn't.
We're playing blue and green at a minimum. We're probably playing black and we're probably playing white. So Thrasios Tymna, how you doing? Let's see ya. Or we're playing 5-color. Either way, you've got so many different ways of doing it. Protean Hulk is reasonable when cast. If you're casting it for 6 mana, it is a reasonable creature in a reasonable format. In a format with Flash, it's not reasonable. It is not a healthy deck. A number of competitive players have come to a consensus that ad nauseum is warping the format around it. And it is a reasonable ban to weaken combo decks in the competitive EDH meta. Without an adjustment to the game rules, bringing us down to 30 life or things like that. If you build a deck around it, ad nauseum is a 5 mana draw 25. And that is pretty good. It's right up there on the really broken side of things. Your Yogg's Bargain is 1 mana per life. It's 1 life per card. And this can get to be maybe 2 life per card, depending on your deck. Quite easily, it can be 2 life per card. And that's still a good deal. We have seen legacy players pay 7 life to draw 1 card, and that was the correct decision. And we can do it for 2 at instant speed. It's pretty good. Now, the great part about that is some of these Flash Hulk decks are running ad nauseum as plan B. Not as I'm going to win. It's the, in case Flash Hulk doesn't work, I have this other card that's really good and gets me everything I ever wanted out of my deck that I could also win with. And that's just my other option. I'm going to set that on the back burner in case this Flash Hulk thing just doesn't work out. So that's kind of the sense for a competitive deck where Flash Hulk is not a good thing. There is some good news. The good news for the community is that shops have sold out. Did you know that? People are making money on this. This push card's really, really hard. At the start of the day, Protean Hulk averaged $3 for near mint. The current near mint cost for a Protean Hulk on TCG is $27. That's a 900% increase in 8 hours. Foils this morning were $15. The only near mint one available on TCG Player is $100. 8 hours later. So obviously there's a rush on the market. Obviously there's going to be it's going to drop. But I don't see this card sticking around for long. So it kind of widens the gap for the competitive community for EDH and the rules committee. We have things like Sheldon has said he is not the goal of the rules committee is for casual games. He's not trying to restrict games to be for a competitive environment. This kind of strengthens the want from the competitive community to look at WotC's 1v1 ban list if they're going to pull one out for their new 1v1 commander environment they are creating on Magic Online, to see if it is if they're going to be stepping out and kind of mediating the difference between a casual EDH and a competitive EDH. It's kind of a hard part with multiplayer competitive EDH because we're stuck in the middle. We're not heads up. It's a different environment than 1v1. But for us, there really isn't anybody that's saying, let's look at that environment and try to make some changes. However, there was somebody in June of 2016, there was this article by this guy named Sheldon. It was posted on Star City Games. And let me quote you something here. Protean Hulk is a creature. In 2016, creatures are way easier to deal with. So why is Leovold being banned?
You ask a good question.
Yeah, this was the article by Sheldon saying, is Protean Hulk a healthy unban for EDH? And his primary reason thinking for it was that creatures were easier to deal with. And since Protean Hulk was banned, we have a new environment, we have more cards, we have more ways of dealing with creatures, but we're banning more creatures. Hashtag free braids.
Oh, I'm going to have to start throwing around a hashtag free Leo soon.
Yes, yes. So
I can't believe it's come to this.
With that, I have to say, now cracks a noble heart. Good night, sweet prince. And may flight of angels sing thee to thy rest. Good night, Leo.
You'll be missed.
Thank you for watching. This has been another video by the Lab Maniacs. Goodbye.